Let us never forget that the battle for human rights is nowhere near won, and we must not forget how to struggle. And I'm proud to say that I think that all of our battles and our struggles for human rights have ever so much in common, and in solidarity we can be strong. I am quite tired, actually. I spent most of the weekend helping my kids move. I know this is a strange way to start a talk, but nonetheless, I spent the weekend helping my kids move. And they moved from a little apartment into a very nice little house. And I watched while my 12-year-old granddaughter, rather self-consciously, did a little victory dance and twirled herself around in her new bedroom. It was very sweet. But it reminded me of another little girl that I know who recently moved. I'll conceal her identity. I'll call her Tilly. I'm in pretty close contact with Tilly via email and Skype. I feel that I know her quite well. She moved back at the beginning of January to a house outside the Adelaide Hills. And like my little granddaughter, she moved from a pretty small unit, a donga actually, at Leonora, out to the Adelaide Hills. And when I emailed her to ask her what it was like out there, expecting her to say it was in a much better situation, and she was really happy to finally be in something resembling a house, despite the fence around the facility and despite the presence of literally dozens of Serco officers. But she reminded me of the gap, the huge gap between my little granddaughter's hope and expectations in life and her privileges and the things that this little girl had suffered, because she said to me, well, it's a nice enough house, but there's hills. And I hate hills. And I thought that was awfully strong statement from a girl who was 12. What on earth, I'm sure most of you would agree, what on earth would make a little girl hate the hills? So I asked her. And she said, well, you know, the soldiers hide in the hills. And it came home to me, the things that this little girl knows that I don't. This little girl knows what it's like to hide when the soldiers come into your village. And this little girl knows why the women cry after the soldiers leave. And this little girl knows what it is to see her uncle die. And this little girl knows what it is to have a mother who cries every night because that little girl's dad is never coming home. He was a victim of the civil war in Sri Lanka. That little girl knows ever so many things that I think it's very difficult for any of us to understand. But some of what she knows because of her experience here in Australia. That little girl knows what it is to have a prison guard rather than your parents in charge of your life, in charge of when you go to school and when you go to bed and when you leave the facility and when you eat and what snacks you can have and when you can play with a toy and when you can't. And that little girl knows what it is to have to put a form through to Serco 2 weeks before her period is due, because that is the only way she can be certain she will get menstrual pads in time. And then she will get 3 per day. So that little girl knows the shame and the humiliation of begging from prison guards for some of her most basic necessities. And my apologies to the sensitive out there, but there are a few things that little girl and I both know that I think neither one of us should know. Because we both know the difference between a bullet wound and a cigarette burn. Because we have seen more of them than our fair share on the bodies of the asylum seekers in our detention centers. And that little girl and I know what a body and what a belly looks like when it's been hit by shrapnel. And that little girl and I know what it looks like when a man's arm has been shot off on purpose by the military. And that little girl knows what it is to sit and to wait and to wonder if she will ever be released. But I am proud to know her because she's a fighter. She's a woman now, at 13, the head of her family, the only one in the family that can speak English as poorly as she does and battle through to get the things she feels her family needs and the other children need. Please, miss, please. The boys have a soccer ball. The girls have nothing. Please, miss, can you send a badminton set? The girls can play badminton. Please, miss, the little ones have no cuddly toys. Can you bring cuddly toys? Well, Refugee Rights Action Network went up to Leonora with cuddly toys so that children could have a comfort item. And what did Serco do? Hand them out? No. They took possession of them. Because the prison guards, the security officers, dare I say it, the untrained, semi-literate thugs working out our detention centers could not see the difference between a child owning and loving a comfort item and a child going into a toy librarian and being allowed to hold it for 1 damn hour a week. And that is what our system offers up to children. That is what those guards are doing to children. The abuse, the physical abuse that we know is going on right now at Christmas Island. And the government is absolutely responsible. It is this government's very expensive policies that keep these people imprisoned, that further traumatize them. And those of us who are writing, who are visiting, who are in touch with people out at the detention centers, watch month after month with no word on visas or with no word on security clearances. We won't